Hey, what's up, everyone? We've got League of Legends back. How about that? Okay, I know there were a few random slates in the last week or two, but the real stuff is back now. We've got the LPL Summer Split 2020 starting up early tomorrow, Friday morning. So I'm excited to be back here breaking down another slate. I'm not a huge fan of two-game slates, but it's what we've got right now. It is better than nothing. And once the LCK picks up in a couple of weeks, we'll have those bigger 4 or maybe 6 game slates. I haven't looked at the schedules yet. But yeah, for now, 2 game slates. So just remember that it's really hard to make a unique lineup. It's really hard to win these multi-entry field tournaments without splitting with a ton of people. I'm going to have to go back and look at my results a bit more, but I may focus on some single entry or 3 entry max stuff for the most part for these 2 game slates. And I also did some different things with how I'm looking at the data and how I'm utilizing it because we do have the benefit of getting the match downloads from Oracle's Elixir with all of the Spring 2020 split information that you could want. All right, so this first 2 game slate, we've got Edward Gaming and Team Wii, and then LNG and Suning Gaming. These are kind of those games that you hate to see. The implied win percentages are 60-40 or about there. Both of them at the moment. And I think if the last split taught us anything, it's that you might as well just treat these as coin flips. That's what I'm going to do. So I probably will build out lineups, kind of using every combination from these 2 games in terms of teams that can win. Looking at kills plus deaths to get an idea of pace. There's not really a huge discrepancy between these 2 games. This was the head-to-head between each of these teams in the last split. So Team Wii had a 2-1 win here, and then Suning Gaming had a 2-1 win in this series. So that does align with them being the favorite here. Edward Gaming and Team Wii were both playoff teams. They both won their first round match, I believe, and then lost in the next round. In terms of additional stats, these are the kills that these teams averaged in wins, and then the amount of deaths their opponents had in losses. And then I averaged those 2 out to come to an expected kills per win metric here. Again, comparing the 2 matches, very similar pace between these 3 teams with Suning having the lowest expectation of kills in their wins. All right. Now let's move on to the part I'm a little bit more excited to discuss. All right, let me try to explain what we're looking at here. I'm going to move away from that to start. Maybe we can make this a little bigger. All right, perfect. So what I did was I went and looked at what each team was averaging in both wins and losses in terms of total fantasy points from the 5 players, not including the team slot, just the 5 positions: top, jungler, mid, ADC, and sup. And then with that information, what I was able to do was get a projection in terms of DK fantasy points for what that team would produce based on these different results. So a 2-0 win, a 2-1 win, and then a 1-2 loss. And I think the most interesting thing you're going to see here is that, Team Wii has the highest expectation if they win. But more importantly, even a 2-1 Wii win where they don't sweep, they're still projected to outscore EG in a sweep. So that is, they're playing EG. I'm sorry. They're still projected to outscore LNG in a sweep there. So just something interesting to note. And then basically what I did from there was I took the various combinations of the two teams winning by, the two possible scores, 2-0 or 2-1, and then went through all the combinations. And then I used these numbers over here to identify the team that it would be better to four stack based on, them having a higher expectation of fantasy points. And then these would be all of the optimal stacks based on these situations. So the interesting thing that you see here is that the total is how many lineups came out when I went through all of these iterations. So 4 lineups here for a 4 stack of Wii with LNG. So basically what that's saying is that there are 4 combinations where both Wii and LNG win, whether it's 2-1 either way or 2-0 either way and vice versa. But in any case, Wii has a higher expectation regardless of whether they sweep or win 2-1. So you'd want a 4-stack Wii. That would be the optimal thing to do. So there's basically 4 match outcomes where that lineup, 4 stacking Wii with LNG is probably going to be your best bet. And then, so on. There's 3 Wii Suns and so on. Or Suning. So let's see. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, optimal builds that essentially would cover all of your bases regardless of which team wins. Now, obviously, one thing I haven't done is go through and try to build these. I'm not sure what's going to fit salary-wise, so that is something I need to look at next. Obviously, you could just enter all 7 of these lineups in like a 20 entry max, but these are optimal builds. It doesn't mean they are going to be the best lineup, because if you're only making one Wii LNG lineup, of course, you can only pick certain players, so you can't rotate through all the players. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to approach this just yet. I'm thinking that I may put more exposure on the lineups that, would project as an optimal lineup in more outcomes. So I will weight these lineups up here greater than these, because, basically this one lineup where you would 4-stack EG and then 3-stack Suning, there's only one possible outcome where I project that as optimal, and that would be where EG sweeps 2-0 and Suning wins 2-1. So it's obviously a very specific outcome that you need. Now contrast that with, this Wii LNG 4-3. So a 2-0 both ways would make that the best lineup. A 2-0 and a 2-1 would make that the best lineup. A 2-1 and a 2-0 would make that. So you get the idea. The point is that lineup could end up being the best lineup in a number of scenarios. So yeah, this is kind of a new way I'm approaching preparing for the slate. So to be honest, I haven't quite figured out what my strategy is going to be for contest entry. But I will certainly be happy to discuss that in the next video. And certainly feel free to just pause the video and use these metrics that I've put together. And this is kind of your overarching guide. Basically, if you think that Team Wii is going to win 2-1 in their series, and then LNG is going to win 2-1 in their series, well, then you want to 4-stack Wii because they have a higher points expectation by, like 65 points. All right, the other half of this is specific player projections. And so I I went through and looked at what they averaged in terms of DK points. This is DK points, not including the bonus for 10 kills or assists or creeps. It's just kills and assists minus deaths to keep things simple. But anyway, this is what they averaged in both wins and losses. So you can basically use this. Again, you could pause it here, and if you think that EG is going to win, you can target players based on who's averaging the most points. And again, I went through each player's projection for their specific outcome in a match. You could also use this to find some one-offs to fit in a lineup that otherwise wouldn't fit. But if you want to 4-3 stack the two biggest favorites and you can't fit it salary-wise, you could pick a one-off from, let's see, maybe Suning or Wee, who have a couple players who still project fairly well, even in a 2-1 loss or a 1-2 loss, like Angel, Huang Feng here, and a few of the guys from Team Wii. All right, that covers it. I think now that I have a little bit more League of Legends experience under my belt, one of the things I'm realizing is that sometimes it's a bit of a fool's errand to think you can predict who's going to win these games. So I think my approach is going to be geared more towards figuring out, okay, if outcome X happens, what would be the best lineup I could make for that, and then build that lineup. Okay, and then if outcome Y happens, what would be the best lineup I could build in that situation, and so on and so forth. So that is going to be my strategy. Don't know how this will work out. I think it should be successful in the long run, but of course it could take quite a number of slates before I get a good read on that. So just something to keep in mind. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in once again. Please do subscribe. I'm going to cover as much League of Legends as I can moving forward. But it's going to be tough sometimes with the amount of soccer that's going on as well. But I'll do my best to get content up here. And if you have any questions about these metrics or anything I discussed, just drop a comment below, and I will see you next time.